is College Football Playoff Selection Show, presented by AT&T.
USC, Alabama, Ohio State. Who's in?
That is the College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. Semifinals will be in the Rose and Sugar Bowls on New Year's Day. Everything on ESPN. This is the criteria used to rank the teams. Now, remember, this is not necessarily just the criteria they start with. This is when they separate teams that they believe to be similar, unequivocally better, sometimes exempts you from these things, and there's no specified weight on these conference championships, strength of schedule, head-to-head, outcomes against common opponents, and the always pleasing other relevant factors, which might very well come into play here. Yeah.
Always leave us a way out.
They did. I think the one thing, it's a very difficult thing for this committee to come up with these answers right now, Kirk, because of the polarizing nature of the two teams, because of what has happened in the past. It's a difficult choice for them.
Well, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it seems like the consensus is we're anticipating Ohio State, we think. Is that correct? All of us think Ohio State will be there? But we're all saying that it'd be a strong statement if they put Alabama in there. We haven't talked about it. If they put Alabama in, you got Georgia in, you got two SEC teams in, and you leave the Pac-12 out, you leave the Big Ten out. That would be, keep talking about unprecedented.
Yes.
Talking about in a year where you could fix that and just say, give it to the Big Ten champ, make everybody happy, or make it a little bit more politically, politically a little bit a better answer. That's why I say if Bama's on that fourth line, I'll be shocked.
I'll be a little surprised as well. You don't think they should be. Now, that's a difference. Kirk seems to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you think they should be, you don't.
No, and the big thing is I think Ohio State's the fourth best team in the country. I believe that. From all the film I've watched, with the balance they've had on offense and defense, watching the way their defense played against Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game, how dominant they are in the trenches, I believe, personally, on the field, I believe Ohio State's a better football team than Alabama.
So the Iowa loss just doesn't matter?
No. Listen, you absolutely have to factor that.
Let's get to the rankings here right now. The fourth college football playoff in its senior season, as it were. You would think it would be a little more mature as we go along here in the fourth year of the playoff. Let's see who number one is. The number one team in the country, the reigning national champion Clemson Tigers.
And that'll put them in the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
And
maybe. They're not revealing yet. It's likely.
Yeah. But we would assume that'll put them in the Sugar Bowl, which would, talking to Dabo a couple days ago about would you like to go out to the Rose Bowl to avoid potentially if Alabama were there at 4, and he said, no, it's closer for our fans. We don't want to have to deal with all that travel, so they would obviously prefer the Sugar Bowl.
That's a big deal this year, Joey, I think, unlike some years, because it's just 1 week. It's Monday to Monday. You go cross-country, back, have to get ready, and go to...
That's especially in a situation where you might have two SEC teams in these rankings. Going to California for an SEC team now becomes an issue with the short rest.
I think there are 3 teams that really had an argument to make to be number one. I think this is the right choice right here. With their resume and who they beat, the eye test.
Exclamation point yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that, they lost at Syracuse, but they didn't have Kelly Bryant 100%. He didn't play in the second half of the game. I think that's right that Clemson's number one.
Well, we're going to see all of these teams, and all of them are really going to have big blemishes. Syracuse didn't win another game after it beat Clemson. Let's see who number 2 is, just behind the Tigers, and making the playoff for the second time, the Big 12 champion Oklahoma Sooners.
Probably the hottest team in America, and if their defense were better, I think they'd be the favorite right now, but we just don't know if you can count on that defense. Baker Mayfield more than likely is going to win the Heisman Trophy. I think it's the one team that nobody wants to play based on what we've seen from that offense.
And how about Lincoln Riley in his first year as a head coach, being able to take the Sooners to a 12-1 year?
And the defense mid-season was a huge concern. Not as concerned about this defense now. Got the first touchdown yesterday. Played with a lot more confidence. Now, they're not going to come in and shut people down the way a Clemson defense does, the way a Georgia defense does, but they are now no longer a handicap for Oklahoma moving forward.
Could make an argument that they're the most dangerous team in this playoff because of Baker Mayfield and the way they score points.
And they're peaking right now. They're playing their best football right now. Although, of the 4 teams here that will make it, 3 play great defense. I think Oklahoma's the one that you wouldn't say necessarily is great, but they have played their best football in the last 4 games.
These are the top 2 teams, and I think it's interesting. Clemson at number 1, in my judgment, has the best position group in all of college football in their defensive front. Oklahoma has the best complete one side of the ball unit.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma offense is the most dominant in college football. Clemson won. Oklahoma 2. Let's see who the Sooners will play in the national semifinal. We assume it's going to be Georgia, and it is. How about Georgia? Hasn't won a national championship since Herschel Walker in 1980. They have an opportunity to be one step away from that in the game against the Sooners.
And how impressive was the adjustments by Georgia in the game against Auburn?
Yes.
How impressive to go from getting dominated against a Auburn team looking like physically they couldn't hang. They make adjustments. Jake Fromm looked like he didn't recognize the Jake Fromm from the first time around. They ran the sweep. So smart to not go against the front four of Auburn in between the tackles, spread them out, go wide. They were very impressive yesterday.
They also got out Jordan Hare. That helped in that game in a neutral site, and Jake Fromm played much better.
I think avenging their one loss on the year is a big deal because if you're Georgia now, you can say we beat everybody we played this season. And from an eye test standpoint, guys, very, very balanced, right? Dominant defense, deepest group of running backs in the country.
Heck of a game. Oklahoma, Georgia. That'll be fun.
And the second consecutive year that we've had a freshman quarterback lead a team into the college football playoff. Jalen Hurts, now Jake Fromm. If you're an 18-year-old kid out there, man, you got
He practiced.
Jalen Hurts did that, and then came into the spring. They're talking about benching him.
Hey, you know, and how about this, too? Lincoln Riley's made the comments. We didn't have much trouble scoring against SEC defense last year when they took on Auburn.
Here we go.
Oklahoma seemed nothing like the Georgia defense, and Georgia seemed nothing like the Oklahoma offense.
How much fun is that?
It's going to be.
Can we get a drum roll before number 4 comes out?
What we're going to do is show you. We're going to show you the comparison here. This is an analytics comparison. It takes away the thing that Booger has been talking about and just evaluating the tape. USC clearly has a strength of schedule. For a reminder, strength of record. That's SOR at the top. That means how well you have fared against your schedule relative to how the average top 25 team should. FBI top 40, all fairly similar. Alabama's the only non-conference champion. This is your last shot at it. I'm going to ask it this way, not what you predict, who should be in that 4th spot?
I already said it. I already said I think it should be Alabama.
Alabama.
Ohio State, better wins.
Ohio State. We got to split.
That's who we think we should.
Imagine the committee room.
Reese could be the tiebreaker. Reese could be the tiebreaker.
I voted in the Pollock said Alabama. I voted in the AP poll this morning, and I had Alabama 4, Ohio State 5. So we'll see. Number 4 and going to the playoff to face Clemson will be the Alabama Crimson Tide for the 4th straight year.
There's somebody missing over
Hey,
there.
no, come on, Herbie. Herbie, come back.
I cannot.
We have a first time that 2 teams from the same conference are going to the playoff. Alabama's been in every playoff now, and we get Clemson, Alabama, Part 3.
What that tells me.
As we look at the rest,
There's
Ohio
5,
State
Ohio
finishes
State.
at number 5 and number 6. Go ahead and finish it, is Wisconsin. So you have 2 Big Ten teams finishing just on the outside, and that's how the top 6 look. We'll reveal the rest of the top 25 a little bit later on. So you have Big Ten champion, nope. Pac-12 champion, nope. You're stunned by that. I'm surprised by that. I'm not going to lie. I'm surprised by
I got
it
up
as
and
well.
walked off, and I think symbolic of what, if you're watching this and you're just a college football fan, and everybody, we all said it, well, I think it should be Alabama, but it's going to be Ohio State. They're going to do the politically correct thing. Committee just made a statement.
Yes.
They are not into appeasing people's agendas. They're going to do what they think is right, regardless if you agree or disagree. People right now are up in arms. 2 SEC teams are in this thing. One of them didn't even go to Atlanta. And you know what? The committee, they don't care. They stuck to their guns. I was on a NFL show this morning. Rex Ryan, who coached for a long time, he was adamant about if you're a football man and you watch teams, there's no way you can put Ohio State in against Alabama. He's like, if you know football, and those coaches in that room, they know football. He was like, it's no, I wasn't saying it. He was saying it. It's a no-brainer that Alabama would be better than Ohio State. Well, I said, well, we'll see if the coaches in that room agree with what you're saying. And evidently they did.
You know, the initiative of the College Football Playoff Committee is to get the 4 best teams. I think we in the media try to figure out different ways to make it easy for people at home to come to that conclusion. We come up with all these different formulas, all these different numbers. Let's go back to the beginning, what it's about. It's about the 4 best teams. We all sat up here before number 4 was revealed, and we said it probably is Alabama, but politically and for other reasons, it was going to be Ohio State. I'm happy today. because the 13 people in the room made a statement. The coaches in the room made a statement. Watching the film, the 4 best teams, in my opinion, got in.
I don't know that I've ever cared about politically correct when we're talking about the 4 best teams. And like Jesse said, it's been simply watching film. Just watching film and studying these teams. And maybe the committee has said that Alabama's going to get healthier at linebacker before they have to play a game. Because that is the only reason I can see them saying that Alabama is number 4. They didn't look good in their last 2 games physically. They did not look good at linebacker. If the same team we saw play against Mississippi State and the same team we saw play against Auburn and this Alabama team, and especially on the defensive side, if that's the team that's coming to the table, I don't see a chance that they beat Clemson. Now, if they get healthier, we get a different conversation. And maybe the injury report looks different for Alabama.
It's going to be a war.
It's going to be awesome
It's going to be a war.
But the committee's making the point, guys. They're making the point. Wins and losses matter more than resume in this case. And you could look at that a lot of different ways, but Alabama's resume not even close to what Ohio State did. I think they're punishing, and this I think is okay. I don't have a problem punishing Ohio State for losing by 31 points to Iowa. A bad loss, the worst loss. That would have been the worst loss for any playoff team to ever get in. They're being punished for that. I think what we also have to do, you have to pay attention to what the committee feels about a certain team the weeks leading up to today. They always had very high regard for Alabama this year. They were 2-2, 1-1 before their loss against Auburn. Even before they got into the meat of their schedule against LSU and Mississippi State, the committee, they really were in love with Alabama, and that's something that, we're seeing that today with the selection of them going to 4.
Was that wrong?
I think it's wrong, yeah.
Okay.
Listen, and again,
is it
guys,
wrong enough to pound the table? Because Joey and I talked earlier. Either decision, we said, I can't really get so angry about it because they're, like I said earlier, the negatives were more compelling than the positives. Is it wrong enough to make you angry and say, look, they made a mistake?
No, and here's the thing. We talk about Alabama's weak resume. It's not their fault that DeAndre Francois goes down in that first year and they skyfall to a 6-win season. It's not their fault LSU lost to Troy. You got to play who you play. That first game against Florida State at the start of the year, we were talking about, hey, the winner of this game, give them the national championship trophy. At the start of the year, that looked like an unbelievable job scheduling to increase strength of schedule. Alabama, at the end of the day, can't be faulted for that. To me, still, I'm not convinced, that Alabama would beat Wisconsin this past weekend. I'm not. With the issues they've had stopping the run the last 3 weeks, with Sean Dion Hamilton out of the lineup, I'm not convinced they could have beaten Wisconsin with their ability running the football with Jonathan Taylor on a neutral field the same way Ohio State. I know Ohio State's better than Wisconsin. I don't know that Alabama's better than Wisconsin.
I'd love to talk to Dabo Swinney right now, and he's privately.
Okay, all right.
A little different.
Yeah.
No, you can ask him on air.
And see what I wish a camera was on him and his reaction when he saw number 4 is Alabama. I would have loved to see what he thought versus potentially playing Ohio State and what happened last year against Ohio State. And Clemson's better this year defensively, and they've really found a nice offense with Kelly Bryant. I'd love to see his reaction to seeing that he's going to play Alabama. My thought would be, because Joey can say whatever he wants about Alabama. They're going to hear for how long until the game, Reese?
New Year's Day.
Okay,
yes,
so
almost
a month. They're going to hear about guys like Joey are going to say that they don't have any chance, and they wouldn't be able to move the ball against this team and that team, and they're going to hear that, and it's going to bring Alabama's going to bring a different team into that game than maybe what we saw against Mississippi State on the road in Starkville. Maybe what we saw in the Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare. Alabama, don't just write Alabama off. Trust me.
We won't, but we all know Dabo ain't scared.
No, he's not.